Welcome, everybody, to episode 247 of WordPress Weekly for Wednesday, September 7th, 2016. I'm your host, Jeff Chandler, joined by Marcus Couch. Marcus, what's up, man?
Hey, just counting down the days. You know how it is.
Until, what are
Until
you
I don't
waiting
have any
for?
more left. I don't know.
Okay. Just figured. Yeah, here we are in close to, well, we're in the beginning of September here, so I'm outside, and today it was a little breezy, and the leaves started falling, and oh man, it's getting to be that time of year. But you don't know about that time of year because you live in California.
That's right. It was a balmy 70 degrees here today.
I'll ask you how warm it is when it's 6 feet of snow here, and you'll say, "Well, it was another balmy 70 degrees."
That's true.
And then after the show, I'll give you some choice words.
That's all right.
Anyways, enough of that. Boy, what a great show we had last week with Gabriel Mays, head of WordPress products at GoDaddy, and it turns out last weekend, or the news kind of was broken by Post Status. They were the first ones to report on it, and then the official outlets, both GoDaddy and Managed WordPress, announced it on yesterday, I believe. Tuesday, right after the Labor Day weekend. That the company GoDaddy has acquired WordPress site management service ManageWP, which was a bootstrap company that was started by Vladimir Prilovac in 2010, but it was officially released in 2012. They have a team that's more than 25 people, and the company's based in Serbia. And for those who don't know, ManageWP is one of those services that you can hook up one or a number of websites to and manage them off one location, and you can manage backups, update security, monitor performance. And earlier this year, in fact, back in July, they launched their all-new back-end redesign, their admin panel, called Orion. And so far, that's taken off. A lot of people really enjoy and use like the Orion interface compared to what they were using previous to that. Now, if you're a Managed WordPress customer, some important things you need to know is that immediately there won't be really any changes because ManageWP will operate as an independent company under the GoDaddy umbrella, similar to how the Media Temple deal was struck. And according to Prilovac, 8% of all websites that are managed with the service are hosted on GoDaddy. Now, some of the premium features in ManageWP will be offered to GoDaddy customers for free. And of course, there are plans in the future to deeply integrate some of Managed WordPress's core features into the GoDaddy Pro program, which we talked about in the last episode. So, congrats to Vladimir. I mean, I'm sure there was some money involved, and I know that he said that basically the company had reached a point where they accomplished a lot of their milestones that they set out to accomplish with the bootstrap money, but now that they've been acquired by GoDaddy and they like what they're offering, and some of the pieces that have fallen into place Vladimir really likes, they believe that they're going to be able to take Managed WordPress to the next level with GoDaddy's resources and team. So one thing I got to tell you is, in my career, my writing career of writing about WordPress and acquisition stories, the negativity associated with this acquisition, especially by devoted ManageWP customers, is the most I've ever seen of any acquisition story. I mean, you want to talk about the backlash and the negativity that is built up for a company like GoDaddy. It was on full display with over on the ManageWP official blog post and within the Advanced WordPress Facebook group, where people just laid it on thick on the GoDaddy and pretty much said that a lot of them didn't even want to stick around to see what would happen next. They just all of a sudden said, well, okay, that's it, Managed WordPress is done, rest in peace. And it was just an incredible response.
I don't get that. And here's why I don't get it, because ManageWP is not even the best service that does that. It's not.
I know based on some of the comments I've read lately from you that, in fact, well, you might as well tell us what you use.
CMS Commander.
And you've mentioned that before, that you've used CMS Commander. Now, I think you've used ManageWP before, so what does CMS Commander offer that leads you to believe or know that it's better than managed WP.
Well, I don't know if it's been a while since I've used managed WP, but I can create a post and tick off my list 3 different domains and post it to all 3.
Okay.
I can put a blank WordPress installation on a host anywhere and put the CMS Commander plugin in that blank install, which that being the only plugin, activate it, add it to CMS Commander, and go from one site and do a complete migration to the other site in minutes.
Okay.
It does automatic backups to Box, Dropbox, servers, emails, whatever. So I have it do dailies of all my domains. It goes right to my Dropbox.
All right. Well, let's talk about price. How affordable is it?
Well, I think they have a free trial, but there's a 5-site plan that's, I don't know. Now that you're asking me, now I got to look. You can try it for free. And I'm not shooting any affiliate link out or any crap like that. So 5 sites is $8 a month, 10 sites, $12, 50 sites, $30, 100 sites, $45.
Well, that seems pretty affordable to me if you're passing that cost along to the clients of sites you're managing.
Yeah, $45 to manage 100 sites. Jeez, how much time does that save you?
Right. So going back to this acquisition, I think that both companies have a lot on the line. Of course, GoDaddy is in the midst still of trying really hard to change their reputation in terms of their technology stack and just the way they run their business. And Managed WP has a lot of devoted followers and customers, and I think most of them are going to stick around to see what happens. But if the reliability of Managed WP starts to fall by the wayside, if the support starts to fall by the wayside, I think ultimately the target of the blame will be GoDaddy, and they can ill afford at this point to have something like that happen, to where it would really slow down their ability to right some wrongs, to strengthen their reputation, to try and fix it. So I think it's imperative.
And where has that happened in the past with any acquisition that GoDaddy's done?
Let's see.
Did they fumble the ball somewhere?
I mean, if so, the closest thing similar to this is their acquisition of Media Temple, and the last time I checked, they're still doing okay.
So what's the problem?
I don't know. I mean, ask all these people who just are discounting everything right now that this is the end. I don't know. It's insane.
Well, I'm sorry to say this, and there's a trigger warning here, but if you're using Managed WP to begin with, you need to look at other options anyway, because
I mean, why not?
There's more out there for you, but you're stuck with WP. I don't know why, but hey, it's your choice. But I'm sure whatever, it makes sense for GoDaddy, because if you're going to do WordPress managed hosting, if you're going to do GoDaddy Pro, if you're going to do all that, badass onboarding that we saw that video for, this makes sense to add this into the package so that somebody can manage them all at the same time. It's in terms of administration, even for the pro person that manages other clients.
And that's initially the key part of the deal, is that instead of having to build out all of these management tools themselves, GoDaddy's just purchased something that works really well. At least those who are already customers of Managed WP, they love Orion. So they obviously have a good thing going there, and they're just going to integrate that into their sites. Now people will be able to manage, hundreds, thousands of different sites now with tools that are already well built. So you nailed it, the nail on the head there with the key point of this acquisition, at least from GoDaddy's standpoint.
Yeah. So to those that complain, come on, there's more things to.
There's an unlimited amount of haterade out there for GoDaddy. I'll just say that.
Why no hate for the media library being so screwed up? Huh?
Come
on, people.
This haterade brought to you by Marcus Couch, the media library. Okay, so today there is a very important release of WordPress 4.6.1. Now this release patches 2 security vulnerabilities. So if you haven't updated yet, or your site hasn't updated automatically yet, you should definitely go check it out, or even look at all the sites you manage through Manage WP or CMS Commander and update them all so you don't have to worry about them. Security vulnerabilities, one of them deals with image file names, and the other one is a traversal vulnerability, a whole bunch of smart stuff that you don't need to worry about. Just patch it. And of course, this release also fixes 15 bugs. So who knows? It may, if you have a small issue with 4.6, this might address it as well. If you encounter any issues, either updating to or with 4.6.1, again, we encourage you to report them in the WordPress support forums. And there you have it. Work continues on WordPress 4.7. In fact, today in the core development meeting, there were hints of 2017 being confirmed to be in WordPress 4.7, but nothing has been confirmed as of yet. We might have more news on that later on in the week, so stay tuned to the tavern for more information. And
just one more thing I got to delete now.
Just one. Boy. All right, so we have an awesome guest on tonight. This gentleman is someone I've referred to him on Twitter and elsewhere as a person in the WordPress community that I think has one of the biggest hearts, and he's generous, and he's one of my favorite people in the WordPress community. Marcus, why don't you introduce our guest and tell our audience a little bit about him before we dive deep into it.
All right. Marc Benzakein started programming at the age of 10 when he was given access to the mainframe at the university in which his father worked. In the mid-90s, he caught the internet bug and helped to start up and build a small independent ISP in Southern California, working as a network administrator, designing and building the network from the ground up. It quickly became one of the fastest growing regional ISPs in California. He's been involved in almost every aspect of technology throughout. Welcome to the show, Marc.
Thank you. Boy, that was very lofty, all that stuff you just said.
Well, I mean, it was a TLDR version of your HeroPress essay.
The important things.
Yes.
So,
wow,
Marc,
if only I could have narrowed it down to that.
So, Marc, man, it's awesome. It's great to finally have you on the show. I believe this is your first time.
It is, and thank you so much for having me.
So I realize you are not at home. Usually you would be somewhere up in Wisconsin, I believe. Near Milwaukee?
I'm in Milwaukee. Yeah. Well, I mean, normally. Right now I'm in Orlando, Florida, looking over a lake from the condo of a good friend's house, getting ready for WordCamp Tampa.
Ah, there you go. Nice.
Yeah.
You don't have any tropical storms to worry about.
No, nothing to worry about. I do need to, I don't know if shout out is the proper term, but probably dig myself a little bit out of the doghouse because today is my wedding anniversary.
Oh,
and
dear.
I am in Florida and my wife is in Wisconsin. So,
are you insane?
Well, you know, sometimes I will tell you the irony or the funny thing is that my son was more upset about me being gone on our anniversary than my wife was. So I don't know, you know, if that says anything. But
He just wants cake.
well, that might be true. Little does he know.
Holy smokes!
So anyway, I just am just going to say, you know, hey, sweetie, I know you don't listen to anything WordPress, but in the event that you ever find this, like after I'm dead, I love you very much, and happy anniversary.
Yeah.
Wow, happy anniversary, you two, and thanks a lot, Marc's wife, for allowing him to be on the show tonight, even if he's in Florida.
Her name is Jessica, so you know, she's actually really awesome, obviously. And we do have to question her judgment of being married to me, but anyway.
So we talk about how you got into technology, you worked with an ISP, you helped build that up, and we might get into that a little bit. But, well, I guess let's start there. Let's tell us how you really got involved with technology and how it eventually led you into discovering WordPress, because we always want to hear about people's WordPress origin stories on the show before we get into it.
Well, it really is a long and sordid story, but I was 10 years old and like Marcus said, I started programming on my dad's, at the university my dad worked at. He was the chair of the foreign languages department at the university, and across from that department was the math and quote-unquote computer programming department. And so I was up at the university quite often visiting my dad and being a general terror, and I think it may have even been the chair of the math department said, hey, I have a great idea, let's give Mark an account and maybe he'll quit bugging us. And so he gave me an account on the mainframe, and I started programming in BASIC at 10, and then my dad, probably to keep me out of trouble during the summer, had me start programming quizzes for his students, and it kind of, went from there. I figured out how to hack things and do all the things that, when I was 12 and 13, 12 and 13-year-old is going to do, and it was a lot of good fun.
And one of the things I've noticed when I've encountered you or ran into you at different work camps, sometimes you have this big camera-looking thing around your neck, and I know that photography is one of your passions that you got into at an early age.
Yeah, so it's not a camera-looking thing; it actually is a camera.
Okay.
So it's not like a camera substitute or anything like that. It actually is something that captures images, and I'm very the older I get, it becomes more and more important to me to capture kind of my own personal history, because I kind of have this view that at one point in time I'm going to forget everything, and so I would like to be able to look back at all the bajillion pictures that I took and have reminders of what my life was like at one time.
You say that, and I sort of sometimes with all my activity on social media like Facebook, my status updates, my images, sometimes I think that's all unnecessary. Like, I don't need to be doing this. No one else cares. But a year from now, when I see on this day, I'm actually very appreciative of the fact that I took a picture. I said I was doing this or whatever, and it rekindles my memory of that. And it actually works out to be a good thing.
Right, and that's exactly what I do, and that's what I tell people is, I actually had a period of time. There was a period of time in my life where I had sold all my computer equipment. This was right, I think my junior year of high school, going into my senior year. I was going to take a trip to Europe, and I wanted to take pictures, and so I sold all my camera equipment, all my computer equipment, and bought camera equipment for that purpose. And that's when I really caught the photography bug. So that was my senior year of high school, and I kind of gave up computer technology altogether for a bit. And then Greg Franklin, who is still my business partner, and I started a camera store back in the late '80s, and I got really burned out on photography and everything that to do with it. I had a darkroom where I did custom work for people, and I realized that the reason that I got burnt out was because I was always doing photography and all of that for everyone else and nothing for myself. And so I've actually become very protective of my photography, and I'm not a fantastic photographer by any stretch of the imagination, so let's not go there, but what I have done is I only do photography for myself. If other people enjoy it, then that's great, and I do appreciate when other people enjoy the photos that I've taken, and most of them are just memories that I've captured. But really, it is for my own purposes, and I actually protect that pretty fiercely. Carrie, I don't know if you know Carrie Lee Maruki, but she and I have talked about it. She heads the WordPress photo project, which is photographing WordCamps, and I help her out a lot with that. But she and I have had that conversation where I said, my photography is for myself, and if other people want to enjoy it, I have no problem with that. But I am not doing it for that. So it's exactly what you said, Jeff. You go back a year later and you look at it, and it rekindles a feeling that you might have forgotten, and so I hold on to that very closely.
Yeah, so let's talk briefly about, because I find this interesting with with some folks is your entrepreneurial spirit, and or at least your entrepreneurial tendencies, which for you started at a very young age. And I wanted you to sort of share the story of how you made money off of the LED game back, I think it was fifth grade.
It was in fifth grade, yeah. Yeah, I had gotten one of these LED race car games, and immediately after, it was a Christmas present, and immediately after Christmas break, first thing I did was took it to school, and I realized very quickly that I could rent the game out for a quarter a game, and I was making $9-10 a day. Renting this thing out, and in fifth grade, and you have to keep in mind, fifth grade for me was 70 something or whatever, right? So it was quite a bit ago, and so $9. I remembered with that $9, I was able to go and buy basically a year's supply of batteries with one day's worth of
Revenue.
Of revenue. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Revenue. Yes. And so yeah, it was pretty cool.
Did you have aspirations of owning your own arcade after that?
Well, we didn't have arcades back then. Nobody. I mean, you have to keep in mind, Pong wasn't even a thing yet. So. So there was like no, I mean, what would it be? The world's smallest arcade with all these handheld LED games that, they were the same game just with a different case and, different name, but it was still the same game. But what I did do is I learned a lot about volume sales. I learned about competition because another friend had gotten a football game. He saw that I was making money, so he brought his Mattel football game in, and he was charging 50 cents a game because the football game lasts longer. But I would make more money because I was doing more volume, because that race car game didn't last as long as the football game. So I was charging half as much but making more money. So I learned about that. I learned about supply and demand. I learned about government regulations, in that the school finally shut down both of our businesses because we were too much of a distraction from actual school. And I always say that I actually learned more from that than I learned my whole fifth grade year in anything, in any of the traditional subjects.
Isn't that funny? Because I have the same kind of story.
It's
like, oh yeah, I won't say who, but I bribed a teacher with software for a better grade. And he said to me on the final day of school, I feel like I should burn in hell for this. And I told him, I think you gave me the best lesson of my life, which is you can get really anything you want. You just got to give other people what they want.
Exactly. And
that's the lesson. I mean, I took that with me my entire life.
Yeah. And that is a lesson that I try to teach other people. I teach my kids when they're doing Pokemon trading or whatever it is, which is that the only way that you can build and keep a relationship with a customer or with a person, whether it's a person or a customer, or most of the time customers are people, but for the sake of this argument, is that both sides of the equation have to feel like they got what they wanted.
Right.
And if one side doesn't, one side is going to feel cheated, and they're not going to want to have a relationship with you anymore. And that's whether it's business or whether it's interpersonal relationships, it doesn't matter. It's always that one key thing is a really big factor with every decision that I make is in my life, because you want to have those lasting relationships. You don't want the other side, or you don't want to feel jilted.
Yeah, and it's the language too, because I said to him, "Oh, here's my extra credit," as I handed him the 5 1/4-inch floppy disk, and it worked.
Yeah. So, but that's a very valuable lesson.
So we know that you helped build one of the fastest growing ISPs in Southern California, I believe. And was it that at this time, sort of going on the topic around entrepreneurism, I wanted you to sort of share this experience of when you hired your first employee, because I've heard this, I believe Matt's brought this up a few times before when he talks about when he first founded Automatic, and it was no longer about him or the software project, but now he was helping people closest to him to help start his company, there was so much more responsibility on him to succeed because there are other people's families and children that depended on his success. And I know that you sort of went through that same feeling or realization when you hired your first employee. It sort of changed your perspective on everything when it comes to running the business or starting the business.
Right. Yeah, we had there were four of us that started the business originally, and we were partners. And there was actually a hardware side and a soft, and then the internet side. And Greg and I actually were brought in to, we went in to do the internet side of things. And we had been doing it for a while, and we got to the point where we wanted to hire our first employee. And so we hired him, and it was one of those things. It was someone that I knew, and someone that I thought would be good in the position, and it was a customer service position. And I remembered we had just rented some office space, and I remembered walking in and looking at the desk, and it was before he even started working there. And I just remember looking at that desk, realizing that the person that was going to be sitting in that desk was not someone that was a stakeholder in the company. And up until that point, I had been pretty much all about making money for myself, and that was all it for me. It was, I was going to be a multimillionaire, and it really was all about me. And I really did have this epiphany that it wasn't about me, it was about them. And I wouldn't say that, you brought up that Matt had this feeling of, all of a sudden he had this great responsibility for them and whatnot. It wasn't for me. I wouldn't say that I suddenly felt, oh my goodness, I'm all of a sudden responsible for other people. What I felt like was like, we're building something that's going to help a lot of people. And I guess there was always a subconscious feeling that whatever I wanted to do, I wanted to make sure I was helping people. But I didn't realize it until I looked at that empty desk, and it all changed, and then everything became not about making money for me, not about having a big bank account. It became about helping people to put food on the table and have security and all of those things. And it really did. It was an epiphany, and it shifted my whole. I've probably had 2 or 3 moments in my life that my whole perspective changed, and that certainly was one of the biggest when it comes to my business experiences.
Now, there's a lot of things that happen between your ISP and years later with moving a lot and children trying to start a family and finances. But at some point, you need to find a way to generate finances, and you find WordPress. Tell us, how did you find WordPress?
Well, it was really quite a freak accident. I had been for about 2 years, I think. I had been in business with another business partner, and we had a Harley-Davidson parts liquidation business. And what this was we would go to Harley-Davidson dealerships, and they all have this room in the back where it's obsolete parts or parts that were taken off from stock motorcycles in order for custom tanks or whatever, and those tanks ended up sitting on a shelf or whatever. And we'd go in and we'd say, okay, we see this pile of parts here, we're going to offer you X amount of dollars on them. And then we go through, we catalog them, and we put them up on eBay, because eBay at the time was a great way to, it was a great venue for having immediate marketability for your products, especially if they're these one-off products, which is what we had. And eBay changed their fees, and there were some things going on, and the economy, it was right when the economy crashed, and I was trying to think of ways that we could make money while still doing the business, and it struck me that a great way for us to make money is off of our competitors on eBay. And the way to do that is through an affiliate program that eBay offered. And so I thought, well, I wonder if there's an easy way to read in a feed from eBay, and it would have your affiliate link on it, and you would just generate income that way. And I found WordPress, and I found this affiliate oh, what was it called? Um, there was a plugin, and that was when I was
Was it
introduced
called
to.
FeedBay?
No, it was not called FeedBay. It
I
was
used
like,
one like that.
yeah. I mean, this plugin really worked. It cost $50, and honest to goodness, it was. It may be. I may die and say that that was the best $50 I ever spent.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, it was called PHP Bay Pro, I think is what it was called.
Okay.
And and I had not ever touched WordPress because I thought it was a blogging platform, just like everybody else on planet Earth. And and I saw it, and it was a plugin, and it said, "This is how you install WordPress. This is how you install a plugin." So I got an account on one of these, cPanel hosts, and I had a WordPress site up and running in a couple hours, and then another hour later, I had populated fields with the PHP Bay plugin, and everything worked like it should. And like a month later, I was making money off of eBay, off of my competitors. And it was about then, well, it was before then, but once I was making money, I started doing it with other things. I did a photography site. I did all kinds of sites where I was making money. And
were you at the point where you were just like, forget going to look for parts anymore? I'm just going to
well,
sit here and do this.
I had my moments. I will tell you that most of that money, I'll be honest, most of that money was kind of like mad money that my wife and I, took for like vacations and things like that, it was nice. At the time, I started doing this, we only had one kid, but she was pregnant with our second. So it really was great. But while I was doing it, I was like, this is a lot more than blogging. I thought I could start doing website development with this. This is easy, and so that's how I got into WordPress. And then later, a friend of mine drives trucks and does staging for like Fox Sports and things like that, and it was during playoff season, and he called me up. He says, "Hey, we're one truck driver short. How would you like to go to Oregon for it would be Oregon State against UCLA? How would you like to do that and drive the staging equipment and help them set up for Fox Sports?" And I thought, that sounds kind of like a lot of fun. So I was driving out there, and I was on the phone with Greg. I was talking to Greg for some reason. And he said, "Man," he says, "I've been doing WordPress." I hadn't talked to Greg in a bit. And Greg says, "I've been doing WordPress development for a while." He says, "I need help." He says, "I'll teach you everything you need to know." And I was like, okay. So when I got back, that's how I got into doing WordPress development. Was Greg had already coincidentally been doing it. And then he suckered me into a trip out to San Diego for WordCamp San Diego. And the rest is history. He really suckered me because he said to me, "I'll pay for the ticket into WordCamp if you pay for the flight." And I hadn't really looked at the price of a ticket to WordCamp, so I thought that it was an even fair trade.
Yeah.
But,
And speaking of this WordCamp, I'm glad you brought this up, and I want to highlight this because we're sort of talking about the storyline of events here, and you say that you hated conferences.
I hate conferences. Hate them.
But going to this WordCamp changed everything for you. How did that happen? What do you mean it changed everything for you?
Well, I had always been kind of I'd say an outside observer of open source software or open source in general, and I really was not aware that there was this really vibrant WordPress community of people that just really truly believed at the fundamental level that when everybody does well, everybody does well. And so when I went out to WordCamp San Diego, I was expecting this conference like a lot of people do when they go to a WordCamp, and I was expecting it to be a bunch of people glad-handing and acting like they're interested in what you have to say, but only so they'd get a chance to say what they have to say in hopes that they can make a sale, which is what my cynical viewpoint of conferences is. And instead, what I found was a bunch of really cool people who were anxious to share their knowledge to help other people out. And I thought, this is what a community is supposed to be, and this is what I've always believed a business community should be, and I wanted more of it. And I think the following year I went to 23 WordCamps. So
wow.
That's
you got the WordCamp bug.
Yeah, well,
you got bit.
Yeah.
So out of this trip to WordCamp San Diego, where did the genesis come along to either create or join? Where does desktop server or server press come into this?
Once again, another freak occurrence. Greg and I were doing client work, and we had been huge evangelists of desktop server forever. Um, Greg showed it to me, and we got to know Steve, who's the creator of desktop server. We got to know Steve fairly well. Greg especially got to know Steve fairly well because Steve's in San Diego, and Greg was only about an hour and a half away, and so they went to a lot of the same meetups and word camps and whatnot. And Greg and I were doing client work, and like we did a lot of times, we talk about what can we do to get some sort of passive income, what can we do in order to, get kind of away from the client work thing. And we came up with an idea for a theme that, this was, 3.5 years ago. We came up with an idea of a theme that we wanted to create. And it was going to be pretty complicated, and we wanted it to be, one of the things was we wanted it to be really robust, but also, here's the trick, being efficient and clean and, and not full of a lot of overhead. And Greg and I talked about it, and Greg said, you know what, he says, this is above our heads. We really should go to someone like Steve and see what he has to say about it. And so I said, okay. I said, would you mind calling Steve up? And Greg said, no, I'll give him a call right now. So Greg called Steve up, presented our idea, and wanted to know if Steve was interested in it. And Steve said, yeah, it sounds interesting. He says, but I've been thinking about talking to you guys about forming a partnership for desktop server because you guys have been such huge evangelists, and you've been phenomenal, and you're good friends, and I know I can work with you. And all of a sudden everything shifted right then. Once again, everything turned on a dime. And so Greg called me back, and he says, well, I talked to Steve, and the conversation took a different direction, and so we, over the course of about 3 or 4 weeks, we hammered out a deal, got, attorneys involved and all the other things that nobody ever wants to deal with, and we reformed the corporation, ServerPress LLC, and or the company, and the rest is history, and we haven't looked back. It's been nothing but great.
And for our listeners out there who don't know, desktop server is software that you can install either on Windows or the Mac that allows you to set up a local server, a local hosting environment where you can install WordPress or have kind of multiple local domains and test things out, different sites. It sort of turns your web server or your computer into a web server.
Right, and then it also allows you to deploy when you're done working on it.
There you go.
So it's you do all your work locally, and then once you've built it all locally, you push a button and send it up to the host.
So speaking of desktop server,
mm-hmm.
What's new with it? I mean, I know that it's something that the company's been working on for a while.
Yeah.
Tell us what's new in the development department for your product.
Well, currently we are working on a new version, 4.0, which we have touted and promised now going on over a year and a half, which is, I'm going to bring it up because it's kind of the elephant in the room, so I may as well bring it up. What we discovered is we actually had a fairly functional, decent working version of it on the Mac a year and a half ago. But what we found were the challenges for Windows were, I wouldn't say they were insurmountable, because we have, what's the opposite of insurmountable? Surmountable? We have surmounted it. But, which sounds really dirty, I suppose.
Well, I wasn't thinking that way, but now that you said
it. It's my anniversary. Anyway, so anyway, we've overcome the issues, but they were actually quite a challenge, and more than we thought that they would be. Not to mention trying to put out a completely new piece of software that is built on completely different architecture while also supporting the software that you have out there with over I think we have close to 30,000 installations out there, and having to support that client base is it was quite a challenge, and overcoming the Windows piece was really the biggest issue for us. But 4.0 is on its way. We have been slowly migrating towards it over the past year. A lot of people are using 3.8.2, which is the most current version that we have, and they don't even realize that they're using, that's about, I wouldn't give a percentage, but a lot of what they're using is 4.0 code. So everything that we've written in the last year and a half has been code that is specific to 4.0, but we've made it so it's more of an evolution rather than flipping a switch, which was the original plan.
I remember doing an initial review of desktop server. It's got to be 1 or 2 years ago at least.
I remember that review.
I can't even remember, and I actually used it on Windows, and I thought it worked well. And it was right around the time you guys introduced the Blueprints feature, which was sort of creating your own sort of custom installed WordPress with the plugins and themes you wanted, and it worked well. And recently, I had the opportunity to install a desktop server on my Mac, and noticed it was a bit more difficult than the Windows install because the Mac started giving me all these security pop-ups about, are you sure you want to do this? And you got to give the password to do this. And you got to move things to this. And you got to do this. And it's like, holy smokes, is this the way it's supposed to work, or is this the Mac's problem? Is this ServerPress's problem? I mean, it was crazy.
Well, I think you may have been a specific use case.
Well, there you go.
As with every piece of software I seem to give you, but but beyond that, there are some, because the Mac is built upon a Unix operating system, and the Unix security is such that any time you're going to make any changes to say the host file or anything like that, you have to have administrative privileges, and it's going to ask you every single time. So part of it is that. Now we have overcome that with the 4.0 release that we'll be putting out when it comes out. We've overcome that, but yeah, some of it is just the way that the security works, because you are actually you are changing system files. So if they're going to be modified, the operating system's going to not like you very much. And it is a bit frustrating. I would say that it's one of the most common questions that we get, and it's and people the questions are always not we hate you, but it's always, this is a minor irritant. I don't know if you can fix it, but this is a little bit irritating. And it's like,
that's how I felt.
Yeah, we certainly get it. Yeah.
So Marcus, I don't know, have you ever used a desktop server to sort of set up a local host, or do you use something else, or?
Here's what sucks. I did do it on my tower computer before it started blowing up with memory problems, and I didn't install it on my laptop, so I have to do it again.
Desktop server had nothing to do with your memory problem.
No, I know
I can assure you that. All right, I just need to say that.
No, it was a great computer when I got it, but it's just had too many problems. But I forgot all about that until you guys just brought it up. So I'm like kicking myself in the face, wondering why I never installed it again.
Well, don't kick yourself in the face.
Yeah, it's a stretch.
So one of the things that some of our listeners that I polled today wanted me to ask you about, and I don't know, to some this may be the other elephant in the room, but there's been another product out there that you can install on your Mac. It's called Pressmatic, and you can get it from Pressmatic.io, and it's made by it's a separate company of Headway Themes. It's owned and operated by Clay Griffiths, and the reviews I've seen from the developer types people, the influencers in the WordPress community, it's received rave reviews that it works great, and it's just it's a well done product. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on if you've tried it, and what do you think about having another sort of WordPress local server type product in the market now on the Mac?
Well, I have not personally tried it. I won't get into why I haven't tried it. I will tell you that there are other people within the company that have tried it. and it's an impressive piece of software. And how do I feel about having a competition in the marketplace? I think it's great. I think we're long overdue for competition. I think I look at it as sort of like when you write something, it's always good to have a third set of eyes on, or a second set of eyes on what you write, because they're going to see things that you haven't. But when you have some good competition and a reputable company that puts something out that that is well received, it causes, it's nice to have a second perspective for us to look at and say, hey, are we going down the right path for our customers? And I can tell you that I have seen a lot of what we do. Like Brad Parbs is another example. He's got his VV, and he's flat out told me, he says, I look at desktop server and I say, okay, what can I incorporate in VV? Is there any way I can do this? And I think it's helpful, and it only benefits the community when we all kind of come up with our own ideas of how something should work, and we all look at it and say, okay, is this something that we can incorporate in our product or not? And I know I'm just being honest, that's what people do. I mean, everybody knows that happens, and I can tell you that a lot of the ideas that we have in desktop server have been used in other products, and we don't mind.
I mean, is there anything on the Pressmatic feature list that you've seen that you go, this
There
sounds
is.
like
There
it would
is.
be really cool in desktop server?
I will tell you, I will be completely honest. The one thing that Pressmatic has over us, I don't think it's an apples to apples comparison, first of all. But the one thing I like about Pressmatic is you can switch out your PHP versions.
Oh, okay. On the fly, I think you can?
Yeah. From when you create a new site, I wouldn't say on the fly.
Okay.
If you've already created a site, I'm pretty sure I think you're, but yeah, you can, because the way that it works, and this is a double-edged sword, is it uses Docker virtual machines, right? So every single instance is its own virtual machine. And whereas the way that we do it is that you use your own operating system. You're not taking up all the resources of your computer by having all these virtual machines or space or anything like that. So it's just two different ways of doing things. And I've talked to people who have used both our products, and I've had a couple people say, I really like the way they do things, and I've had a couple people say, there's no way it's going to touch my workflow because this is what my workflow. And the thing that I want to say is that we are a service business first. We are always interested in serving our customers. We're interested in saving our customers time. And I will go to a WordCamp, and I've had people say, you know what, I roll my own. And my feeling is, if it's a workflow that works for you and it saves you time, because we can all talk about saving money or making money or whatever, but money is not the resource that's most precious to us. We all think it is, but it's not. It's time. And that's what our focus is always. Our focus is always, how can we save time for our customers? And so when people come up to me and say, this is how I do things, and it works for me, and this is my workflow, and it's efficient for me, that's all we care about, is that you have a workflow that's efficient and saves you time. Because time is the one resource. We all have the same 24 hours in every single day. It doesn't matter if you're, Donald Trump or
Word Trump.
Or yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't matter. You still have the same 24 hours, and that's what our focus is always looking at that 24 hours and how we can save time.
Well, I will tell you that as a user, I don't care about the PHP version. So.
Well, and I will tell you that most of our customers don't. But I will also tell you that I still think, as a developer or someone who used to be a developer, it's one of those things that I think is kind of a nice feature. So, having said that, I wouldn't.
I understand
that it won't show up in one of our future releases.
Sure. I mean, you gotta. That's the evolution of software.
Right.
That you keep hacking into new, uncharted frontiers. That somebody has to be the first to go through there and pioneer their way through it. But maybe you can enhance it with a different idea that you had on the table for a year
Mm-hmm.
and just
Mm-hmm.
hook it right in. And I'll also
Right.
say as a user too, I like seeing competition in the marketplace, and especially
Mm-hmm.
when one I have two different themes that I use off of Theme Forest, and I know that they're fighting against each other in terms of the different updates that they do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great when one comes out with something that's sort of revolutionary, and then I
Mm-hmm.
know in 2 weeks the other one's going to come out with something, or
Yeah,
a month
yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. Right.
So it
Yeah.
helps the entire community, I think.
Right. And that's exactly that's the point that I was trying to make, which is the people that need to win are the community.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people that need to win. And when you have good competition between two companies, and it's healthy competition, for instance, I mean, Clay, I don't know Clay, I've never met Clay, but I understand he's a great guy, and he's been well respected in the community, and that's great because we might be able to work together too on things, and we have overlap with our customers. They have, he's got Headway, right? And a lot of our customers use Headway, and so it helps to have that, but also by having that healthy competition, you just push each other to do better, and the people that win is the community, and that's what it's all about.
So talking about desktop server, has this been the only product up until WP SiteSync, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, but has desktop server been the only product that, or should I say kind of revenue stream that ServerPress has had?
It is, yes.
And so we're talking about 30,000 sites, I think you said,
Well,
have installed.
we have 30,000 installs, but that's also, that's the free version, and then there's the premium, and so it breaks down, differently, obviously, based on that. But yeah, we have about 30,000 installs.
So let's talk a little bit about WP SiteSync, which is your newest product plugin, which allows people to easily synchronize content, such as a post, from one site to the next. And what a process I went through to try and review it, but obviously there were some technical things that we had to work out. But once I finally got it to work, it was kind of like magic, where you hit a button and boom, everything that you could ever want, the featured image, the metadata, everything I needed was merged over. And it was pretty cool. So tell us about the decision or the thought process into diversifying or adding products to the I'd say ServerPress line.
Well, we always knew that we wanted to enhance our offerings, and one thing that we focus on, and one thing we specialize in, or I would say our only specialty really, is creating an efficient workflow. And so obviously everybody has their own idea of what goes into creating an efficient workflow, but one of the things that everybody agrees upon is that if you're going to work locally, what do you do once you've deployed your full site and then you make more changes locally? And keeping that synchronized is a challenge. And every time one of us would do a presentation at a meetup or a WordCamp or something, that question would always come up. Yes, but how do we synchronize the data after it goes up? So we knew that one of the first products that we were going to want to offer was going to be a database synchronization tool that could do it, in small pieces rather than all at once, or in chunks. And so Greg actually was doing a presentation in LA or Orange County, and the question came up, and Greg says, we are going to be working on it, but we got to get 4.0 out the door first. And he got tapped on the shoulder by Dave Jesh, who is a world-class software engineer. In fact, he's a guy we've secretly been wanting to get for a very long time, but he didn't know it. he was the subject of many, many meetings that we had when we said we need some development talent in the company. And he tapped Greg on the shoulder. He says, you know, I've had this plugin that I created. It needs some work. It's not quite done, but I created it a bit ago, and it's kind of sitting on the shelf. Are you guys interested? And you know, you got to strike when the iron's hot. And so
You know what this is? This is another one of those freak occurrences.
it's another one of those freak occurrences. Yes, yeah. You know, you got to create your own luck. That's what it boils down to. There are a lot of things that people say, "Gosh, that was lucky," but you got to create it. I mean, you gotta be out there and put yourself out there, and you can create your own luck by being out there and talking about it and putting yourself out there, and that's what happens in each one of these cases. And so we started talking to Dave, and I hate to use this term because it's so corporate-y, and we joke about it in the company all the time because they know how much I hate it, but there was some synergy. We really had some good synergy, and we hacked at the software, and we put it together, and we released it, and so far it's gone pretty well. And by the way, Jeff, you will be happy to know that there is a new release that came out just today, which does resolve the problem that you, and it seems like only you had, but it does resolve that problem.
You know, I normally I'd be mad at that. No, not really. But hey, that's what I do. That's what I'm good at. I'm good at breaking things.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, that came out today, and there's a post up on the site where you are actually mentioned as, thank you for for working with us on that. So
sweet, I got props.
Yeah, you got some props.
Nice. That's I'll take that. So for those who don't know, what you do is you install WP Site Sync on two sites. You name one site. One site is the source. The other is the target site. Mm-hmm. And so on the source site, in the configuration box, I think you put the URL in of the target site, correct, and then you click OK, or you have to put in your admin credentials, I believe.
Correct. Of the target site. Correct.
Of the target site, and then you click a box to see if it can properly communicate with this site, and if you can, then you'll see a meta box, a WP Site Sync meta box when you're editing or creating a new page or post. And if you want, you can, once you're done, or if you want to publish it at the same time or whatever, you can synchronize content from one site to the other at the click of a mouse, and it's really fast because it's only doing one post at a time.
Correct. Well, now we do have a bulk
now
coming out soon. No, not yet.
Oh, okay.
But it's coming out. It'll be out real soon. And we also have pull, so you can actually pull from the live site and bring it local.
So tell us a little bit about the business model around this plugin where you're creating this sort of extension marketplace.
Right. So currently, the way that it is that you can download the SiteSync for Content, which is the push only, off of the repository, so it's free. It gives you the opportunity to play with it and use it to your heart's content. Push it to as many sites as you want. You can push it to to more than one site if you want to, and that's free. And then each plugin that we're creating will have a specific purpose. Like for instance, poll, or we'll be working on new extensions for certain themes or frameworks, like say for instance Genesis. There's a menus plugin that'll be available, and you can buy those individually, a la carte, or currently we do have an early adopters special because we do realize that it's new software, and as with all new software, once you get out into the real world, people might run into an issue or two because it's software, and that's what happens with software. And we like to get as much feedback as possible. But as a result of that, you can get in on the early adopter special, which is $99 a year, which entitles you to all the plugins that we're coming out with as they come out. So you can go to the website wpsitesync.com and check it out. That was my plug.
So well, there you go. Now with this plugin in this marketplace, you're diversifying your business a bit with ServerPress, but are
Mhm.
there any immediate lessons you've learned so far in adding an additional product, via the support load that already existed with desktop server? Is there anything you've learned in the process yet?
There haven't been any big surprises yet. So I'm really happy about that because I would say that it may be the first time that we haven't been surprised in a negative way with the choice that we made. So far, it's been well received. So far, we've had good dialogue with our customers. Our philosophy is always the same, which is keep open dialogue with customers. Customers are going to get frustrated if things don't work the way that they're supposed to, and we understand that, and we want to be there to help you through it. And customers appreciate that, and they know that about our company. They know that we are always going to be a service. It's really less about the software and more about giving the customer what they need. And so we haven't really run into, we didn't get inundated with a lot of support issues when we launched, and it's actually been a pretty smooth rollout so far with just a few, things like what you ran into and some authentication issues, which appeared to be the same as your issue, but they weren't. It was a completely different issue. But that was also addressed in today's release in those rare cases as well. So
How do you tackle those things? Like, is it like a freak out emergency meeting when you find stuff like that?
um,
I just want to know like the behind the scenes stuff. It's not all Silicon Valley, the TV show, I know, but you know.
um, yeah, that's a good question actually. We we have every day we have a daily meeting. There's a daily meeting every single day, which drives me nuts because it's at 9:15 on the West Coast, but 11:15 in the Midwest, where I've already been working for 4 hours, and I have to drop what I'm doing to go to a meeting. But I get it. I'm just lamenting a little bit. But we have our daily meeting where we address things like this, and then we are in Slack all day long. And if something comes up, we look for trends. We are always looking for trends in all of our support because things impact from the outside world, things impact us all the time. So something that might work swimmingly today, tomorrow may not work at all because of an outside, something from the outside changed, like a new version of WordPress, for instance, or all of a sudden XML-RPC is going away because of security issues or whatever. I mean, there's a bunch of reasons why we get impacted. And so we have these conversations and we look constantly for trends. And if we see a trend, freak out might be a little bit of a strong term, but we certainly do an all hands on deck and kind of drop what you're doing. We need to figure what this issue is. And if there's a workaround that we can write a doc for right away, then we'll do that. If it is something that we can fix because with a new release, then we'll do that. With desktop server, it's a little bit more difficult because desktop server is a compiled product, so we would actually have to compile a whole new package. Whereas anything like WP Site Sync, which is purely PHP and whatnot, that's a lot easier to just push out a release if we can find the problem right away. But we try to keep on a release schedule rather than pushing out a release every time one little thing goes wrong, because then we really wouldn't make any progress with the product. But if it's something where all of a sudden we are like, hey, in the last 15 minutes we've gotten 10 complaints about this, then it's definitely kind of a freak out situation, yeah.
And how is it handled with it sounds like you got a distributed workforce, so
we do.
And so do you get on Skype then and start talking, or is it all Slack or what?
That can happen.
Yeah.
So here is one of the huge benefits of bringing Dave Jesh on. Dave Jesh and his wife Jen ran a company called Spectrum Tech. When we took on WP Site Sync, we took on Spectrum Tech, and we got Jen along with Dave. Jen, I cannot speak highly enough about what a bonus she was. She is like a godsend because she is such an organized product manager. She calendars everything. She gets to the bottom of everything, and she's direct. She's to the point. She nags me when I need to be nagged. She nags everybody when they need to be nagged, and I don't mean nag in a negative way. We all need to be nagged because we all get distracted by squirrels. So she's very good at keeping us focused and on task. And when we have an issue like that, she will get to the bottom of it, and she will get it on the schedule. She will decide whether it's something that needs to be addressed right now, yesterday, or in 2 weeks. And she will make it happen. And the developers, both Steve and Dave, who are our main developers, they won't argue with Jen. They will just do what she says. We all will. I mean, that's the reality. We all will. So that's what happens. She decides, we all kind of decide. She'll ask the right questions. She'll ask how much of a priority is this, and how does this impact our customer base, and we explain it to her very well, and then she'll make it work. And sometimes it does mean that we're all working on the weekends or 24 hours a day or whatever.
Right.
And that does happen.
So what do you use for project management to tie all that together?
We use Asana mostly.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's been kind of we were using Basecamp, and so we switched to Asana. So we had to go through that kind of metamorphosis, and there's been some ways that we've changed our workflow. But the reality is, our number one priority is to save the customer's time. So if we realize that our product is wasting customers' time, we take it very, very seriously.
Right. Well, that's good to know.
Don't you be wasting my time, Mark.
Yeah. Well, you got nothing better to do, Jeff.
I've been outed. Holy smokes! On my own show, for crying out loud. This will be the last time you're on. I know it's very late. It's very late here. I know you're on the East Coast. You've had a long day of traveling. Yeah. But before there's all kinds of stuff I want to talk about, but there's always the next time I'm going to have you on the show again because I really want to dive into some of the stuff you do outside of WordPress because I think it's extremely important and I love you for it. But before we wrap up the interview, I wanted to give you an opportunity because I know it's happening. Let me look here. Next weekend, I believe, and that is WordCamp Milwaukee. And
yes.
I wrote about it today, and I found out that WordCamp Milwaukee is doing this cool thing where it's a 50s Happy Days theme. Tell us a little bit about that, and I'll give you a chance to plug it.
Well, thank you. I love having chances to plug WordCamp Milwaukee. So we always try to do something that's kind of unique to Milwaukee, and so. A couple years ago, we did a Harley theme, and then we did a kind of a dairy theme, which is more of a Wisconsin, thing. And then
the cheese.
Well, last year was not unique to Milwaukee, other than where we had the after party. And last year's theme was a spy theme, and the after party was at one of these. It was a restaurant called the Safe House, and it's this place that's kind of like a spy. Kind of like it has all kinds of secret passages and all kinds of things in it. It's this really cool restaurant, and when you walk in, the servers all call you, like if you're in their way, they'll say, "Excuse me, spy," and so they call you spy, which is a little weird and awkward. But anyway, so that was our theme last year. It was all based around having the after party, really. But this year, it's based on kind of the Happy Days theme because Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, and all that were based in Milwaukee, and so we thought it'd be kind of fun to do this 50s sort of theme, and I gotta say, Jamie Schmidt, who actually now lives in Portland, but she has been a Milwaukee person her whole life. She did the website, and she did the logo, she did everything. It looks so cool, and so I'm really excited about it. I'm crazy enough to do a WordCamp this weekend, and then I have to get right back and actually get to work and finish up all the last minute details for WordCamp Milwaukee. I'm really, really excited about the speaker lineup because I've found that in the past the speaker lineups tend to always, a lot of the subjects seem to be the same subjects, and I feel like we have a really good diversity with our speaker lineups this year, and I'm very excited about what we're going to see. And Milwaukee is just a cool town. Hopefully the colors will be changing by then, and so it'll be really pretty. Hopefully it won't be 91 degrees and 200% humidity, which is what it was yesterday.
Yeah, it's been like that here today.
It's crazy. But yeah, really, really looking forward. I'm looking forward to getting it done and then being done with it.
So I got a trivia question for you.
Okay.
What diner served as the influence behind Al's Diner in Happy Days? Don't say Leon's. It's not Leon's.
It's actually two other ones. One is Pig and Whistle, and I cannot remember what the other one is.
Okay, so I was doing some research today, and apparently there's an article published in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin Sentinel Journal where Tom Miller, one of the show's co-creators, said that the diner was inspired by Milky Way.
Milky Way, that's the other one. Yeah.
So he says that it's just that the Milky Way was the closest one to him when he was growing up on Bay Ridge Avenue in Whitefish Bay.
Yeah.
So he
said, grew up in Whitefish Bay, did he?
Yeah. Well, that's what he said.
That's where the one percenters live.
Well, there you go. But he said Arnold's is really just a compilation of everybody's recollections of the drive-ins of the 1950s.
Right.
And even today, I still enjoy a good drive-in. Like the one we have here locally, and boy, they serve an awesome burger. It's called Swenson's. So you drive up, you turn your headlights on, and the guy comes running out to you, serves you. You can eat your food right there in the window. It's kind of a cool experience.
Yeah. Well, they're definitely fun. I like Leon's because I just the whole neon thing, and it looks like it hasn't changed in 60 years. I mean, I don't think it has.
Yeah, apparently from what I read, it was built in 1942. It was remodeled in the early 50s, and really it's kind of stayed the same ever since.
Yep. Yeah.
And it must be good food if they've been around for 60 years.
Yeah, and it's cheap or inexpensive, but yeah, it's excuse me. Yeah.
Cones, burgers, shakes, custard. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So
it's
great.
Too bad you're not going to be here.
I know. It's on my list. I've heard so many times from you should come up to Milwaukee, and I will one of these years.
Did you get a Wapoo? Did you order one?
Did we order a Wapoo?
Yeah, like a special.
I know they had one for the Harley Davidson where Wapoo was on a motorcycle.
We do have a Wapoo, yes.
It looks like one of the educational ones, I believe, because of where the venue is.
Oh, next year maybe go for the Wapoo with like a brat and a beer.
Or you know what? Actually,
this year, if you go and look, the Wapoo, which once again Jamie created, the Wapoo has like the hair and the leather jacket.
Yeah, it's a Fonzie poo.
Yeah, it's a Fonzie Wapoo.
Yeah, I was just thinking it. Now I'm looking at it again. It's got.
By the way, I want to give the community a great idea, which is somebody needs to create a Wapoo Go game, because there are enough Wapoos now that if someone would create a Wapoo Go where you go to these word camps. I mean, I know that Miami, they have the actual cards that you have to find, the Wapoo card and whatnot, and they find them in the bathrooms or whatever. But they should have like like a Wapoo Go where like you're at the word camp and you're like looking for these Wapoos. That would be kind of.
The thing about that thing is I've never played it because it doesn't work on my iPhone 4S, but it's only a matter of time before they start using that in conferences if they haven't already. Because I've seen these conferences where they give you a card and every booth has to stamp you and all that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Except for it needs to be at a word camp.
Right.
Except for what it should be is it should be instead of at the word camp, they do it and you put the Wapoos around the city that the word camp is in, so it gives them an opportunity to explore the city and find Wapoo. Is the plural of Wapoo, or is it Wapoo?
Wapai?
Wapai. So if anyone's interested, if you're in the Milwaukee area, or even if you're within a few hours drive, there's still plenty of tickets available. They're $40
Yep.
each. It gives you access to both days of the event and the after party.
Yep.
So a lot of bang for your buck.
Gonna go
It's gonna
cow
be fun.
tipping for the after party? What's going on?
No, it's Milwaukee. We don't have farms in Milwaukee.
I'm teasing.
Breweries
I'm from
and
Chicago, so
motorcycles.
we're natural enemies. I grew up in Chicago, so I grew up hating.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, I understand.
Awesome. So I think we covered a lot of ground here in the show. Got to learn about some insights of ServerPress, how you discovered WordPress. I think we had a great show. And Mark, I know you're going to be at WordCamp Milwaukee. You're the lead organizer next weekend, so if people can...
I may not show up.
Yeah, if you get too tired. But how can people stay in touch with you, follow your work, and what other events do you plan on going to throughout the rest of this year?
Well, I will definitely be at WordCamp US. I applied to speak there, so I may actually speak at WordCamp US. I'll be in Ann Arbor. I'm going to be leading a local development workshop there for WordCamp Ann Arbor. I can't remember the dates.
Sometime in October.
And I'll be actually right back here in Orlando for WordCamp Orlando, whenever that is. So, and then you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Marc Benzak, and that's MarcBenzak. And my Twitter feed is very, very, very active.
Yeah, okay.
Well, you know, if Twitter would let me have more than 140 characters, I might interact a little bit more on it.
I know the feeling. Every time and then you paste a picture in there, and it's like 105.
Right, and then, yeah, so you've written the whole thing out, and then you paste a picture, and it's like, oh, you're 25 characters over. What?
Yeah. Oh, man, Mark, thanks a lot I know it's been a busy day of traveling, and holy smokes, the day of your wedding anniversary. I'm surprised you're still breathing. Anyways.
Well, my wife is. Did I mention that she's awesome?
Yes, but
and
it's
I will
always
also
good to remind her.
I will also tell you that I wrote her a very nice card and left it on her desk this morning. I'm
Awesome.
Such a romantic. Actually, I did. I wrote it, but I feel really bad being away on our anniversary. And my son feels bad too.
After a good after party, you'll forget all about it.
Holy smokes. So, Mark, thanks a lot for spending some time on the show with us, giving us some insight into the processes of desktop server and ServerPress, and best of luck to you and you guys for WP Site Sync, and we'll have you back on the show soon because there's so much other stuff I want to talk to you about. And get some sleep, man. Have some fun.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
You're welcome. Thanks for being on the show.
Anytime.
Not a problem. So that does it for our interview with Marc Benzakein. And, boy, what a great show. I really enjoyed ourselves. Went back through a trip of memory lane. And I was going to mention this to Mark, but Marcus, I think he may be the oldest guest we've had on the show.
Nope, Bob Dunn.
Oh, there you go. You're safe, Mark.
You know what? Bob Dunn saves me time and time again from not being the oldest guy.
I'm sure he'll get a good laugh.
I need to send him a box of cigars or something. I don't know, because, boy, if it wasn't for Bob Dunn, I would be the oldest guy everywhere.
I'm sure he'll get. I know Bob. He'll get a good laugh out of this.
Yeah.
So awesome, Marcus. Covered a lot of great stuff, but I think let's get into some plug-in picks of the week, man.
Okay, well, before I do that, I want to mention that I am going to be speaking this week at WordCamp Los Angeles this weekend.
Oh, nice. Yeah, your first speaking engagement.
It's the first time at a WordCamp.
Well, first time at a WordCamp, and your first thing in the morning. So
I know I'm right at first session, first day, right after the opening remarks. So
make sure to introduce yourself to my partner Greg. He'll be there. We're sponsoring LA.
Excellent. I certainly will. So I'm going to be talking membership site success strategies, but here's the thing. I'm not talking about WordPress or even any plugins or anything like that. It's just going to be highlighting 5 different really successful and out-of-the-box approaches at membership sites. And I think it's going to open some eyes, and that's the whole intent behind it. So come on out. Actually, if you don't have tickets, you're screwed because it's sold out. So anyway, those of you lucky ticket holders, come on over to my room over there on Saturday. And now let's get into some plugin picks of the week. Had an interesting submission to me, which is the FG Drupal to WordPress plugin, which migrates articles, pages, categories, tags, and images from Drupal to WordPress. It's been tested on 6, 7, and 8, all the way up to WordPress 4.6, and it is compatible with multi-site. I didn't test this out because I don't want to install Drupal. So I'll have to take my word for it. Next one is User Draft Notifier. Now, I use this actually for myself, which this sends email notifications to users who have saved a draft for more than X number of predefined days. So you just change that in the settings, and you can have it automatically discard all the user's drafts, which are saved before a predefined period. So if you get a lot of people on there and on your site that make drafts and don't do anything with them, or they think it's Notepad or something like that, this thing can help you to clean those things up. And finally, Jeff, actually for 4 years, I've been begging somebody to make a plugin like this. Too bad I don't have a client that needs it anymore, but it's called Business Hours Indicator, and it allows you to easily add an indication of whether your business is open or closed at the time. You just enter in your times and your time zones in the plugin settings page, add the shortcode anywhere you want on your page, sidebars, header, whatever you want, and it takes care of the rest. It's called Business Hours Indicator, and those are my plugin picks of the week.
See, that last plugin you just mentioned, Business Hours Indicator, those, I would say, and I haven't tested this, but it probably works, but I mean, I would say that is an example of some of the gems that exist in the WordPress community where, you know, you want to do something. To me, this sounds like something that would be simple, but what do? You go, but maybe you can't quite do it, or it's difficult to do manually. So there's this little plugin out there that does it, and that's just one of the beauties of WordPress, is that these types of plugins exist, you know, for the most part.
Yeah. So if you are doing something for, you know, a local business in terms of development or something like that, you know, these are the kinds of things. Even if you did their website long ago and you come across a plugin like this, you can always approach them and go, hey, you know what? I was checking out this podcast, this WordPress podcast, WordPress Weekly, and they were talking about this plugin, and I think you could get some benefit out of it. Hey, you might get yourself a couple of billable hours to install a feature like that. You never know.
I might have to take a look at it after the show. So,
are you going to put, hey, that's a good idea, Jeff. Let's put something on the tavern. The tavern's open or closed.
But it's always open, 24/7. Always.
We need to close it sometimes.
Wow.
Like yesterday.
Wow. Holy smokes. Okay. So we're going to be moving on now. And this will be Marcus's last show. So
that's not true.
That's going to do it for this episode of WordPress Weekly. We will not be having an episode next week. I will be on vacation. Unlike Mark, I'm actually going to take the whole week off and spend a lovely dinner dining with my wife on our 4-year wedding anniversary. Because bad things happen to me. I haven't really, gotten to that point yet where I can get away with doing what Mark's done, and I see he's unmuting himself. But please, no comment, Mark. I'm ending the show. We'll talk about this later. But
I gotta say something.
all right.
I won't. I'll hold my tongue.
Okay, so. You can follow. Hey, guess what? I'm back on Twitter, so you can follow me on Twitter at Jeffro, JEFFR0.
Yeah, did you like the pictures I did of you while you were gone?
Yeah, they're just fantastic. Anyways, yeah, you're like Bob Ross making beautiful trees with me and my face. But you can find show notes for this episode and every other episode on WPTavern.com. And Marcus, if we wanted to stalk you, how could we do that?
You can go to my website, marcuscouch.com, membershipcoach.com. Follow me on Twitter at marcuscouch. And I want to say follow Word Trump on Twitter.
That is a pretty funny parody account.
That's the most hilarious thing. And apparently you and Krogsgard are going to get your own show on Word Trump TV when that comes out.
Oh, boy, isn't that going to get ratings? Yeah, boring. Not an insult to Krogsgard, but, just me. I'm only insulting myself. I want to make that clear. I've already been through enough debacle on Tuesday. Anyways, Everybody, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll talk to you again in 2 weeks on September 21st. Take care, everybody.